How common do you think injuries are amongst musicians?
I teach at a school that we have thousands of musicians, and we hear every day injuries, injuries, injuries. All the hospitals around Boston, they're treating musicians for hand injuries.
With students being injured so frequently, doesn't that mean there's a problem? There's something missing in the education system?
Oh yeah, and we address this problem many times because the thing is that even a person with a nice technique, a person that was taught perfectly by a great teacher, can have an injury, because usually when you're young and you want to excel and play more, you end up doing crazy things. You end up playing hours and hours and have no rest and don't warm up and all this stuff. And when we're young, we don't think that we ever have an injury. And this is what is happening. Then there is the way of is the way how humans are, especially when we are young. We'll say, oh, I have to do this, I have to prepare my recital, I'll practice the last month as much as I can. I'll give you an example. And this is where injuries happen. In other professions, including like if you're like a football player here in the United States, they're with injuries all the time.
But they're seen as athletes and they're training very hard, and everybody knows that, and for them an injury is understandable, inevitable. People don't take playing an instrument as seriously because they don't realise that although we're only using tiny muscles and doing tiny movements, those tiny muscles are working extremely hard, and it's comparable to any athlete, just on a much smaller level. For somebody like me, admitting that I've got a pain problem, for me it's like an admission of weakness because I'm a fit, active, tough-looking guy, and yet playing guitar hurt me like a little sissy.
We are overworking these muscles more than any normal human being, so beyond any comparison. So that's why, mostly we are ending up having this kind of injuries. So and all injuries, based on my experience, most of the injuries are preventable.
Some people just don't want to talk about their problems.
I know, and this is actually, sorry to interrupt, but this is another injury when you don't want to talk about the problem. You see?
Yeah.
This is another thing. Oh, if you don't talk about the problem, you cannot find solutions about the problem. We hide it, we suffer with all this. This is not helping. The moment we're going to embrace it, and I'm here today to tell you that these kind of injuries, they're preventable. Even if you have it, they're reversible. Among us, or among professional musicians, it's almost like an embarrassment to ask a colleague, what do you think about this? What do you think about my hand? Or do you think about this technique? And of course we don't talk to the other person as well, because no one gives the green light to say, oh, by the way, do you notice you doing this? It could take only one sentence to alleviate decades of suffering.
How important do you think it is that teachers have knowledge of physiology and causes of injury and understanding things like that?
Well, I think the teachers, they should be educated, re-educated based on this. I think every institution from now on, it should help teachers, send them to places to get education about injuries, about all these things that they can pass along to their students. And again, if we catalog everything, we will see we're not talking about an immense amount of injuries among musicians. There are these specific ones.
How important is posture for musicians?
You know, the interesting thing is everyone will say, including me, that posture is a very important thing, but you can see all this, lots of famous musicians, they have horrible postures. You can see people in jazz, people in, but still they can play the instruments. That a wrong posture can aggravate an underlying condition of what it may happen to you. If you're a person that you're totally relaxed, you're warming up and you have a bad posture, it's not, going to be the end of the world. But of course, if you do it for decades, it will add up. That's why, sometimes I see young people with bad posture play wonderful. But 10 years from now, 20 years from now, it will be game over. The whole idea is how long you're planning to do this. And this is the answer about the posture. The posture is we are trying to be balanced with our body, and in order to have the best biomechanic approach of how we are going to use our body, how we are going to use that muscle, that bone, and everything else. So good posture means we are trying to start with the best position in order to use these parts of our body. So in this case, I think, when we're trying to play music, we're trying to play music we want to play music for decades. The good posture from the beginning, it will definitely help to do so. Years and years ago, when we all started using the footstool, we realized something that was not absolutely fine there. We have to be for hours elevating one specific hip. Usually, you elevate the left leg, so you are in a position which you are like uncomfortable. But everyone says, well, that's the classical guitar. But that's why, later people start developing new ways of having both feet on the ground and creating these devices where you elevate the instrument. We always try to figure out what good posture means, because that will be a totally another question to discuss.
The advice from postural experts is all along the same guidelines. So although each instrument has its own demands, we can still start with the same idea, the same neutral position that everybody agrees with, and try to deviate from it as little as possible.
Yeah. Because you see, the whole idea of posture also will be also what is the right posture for the hand for a guitarist. And if we had like 5 guitarists among us, or 10, we may end up having 10 different opinions how the right hand works. In my opinion and experience, based on this, I'm adamant that I know exactly how my hand works, and I think I will represent an average human being, especially coming out of an injury like this. And the moment I realize how my hand works, then I can adjust it. I don't need to adjust it. I will use it on my instrument. I see postures, I see positions, I see the way that many people using their hands, and they're terrible, and that ends up in injuries. The whole idea for me, just I don't know if that will be one of your subjects, but to move away from injuries, especially for the right hand or the hand that engaging the strings. The right hand has to work as a fist, like this. Which means the thumb is always on top of index. And when we're engaging a string or a chord, it's like creating a fist. And that's how the hand was made, to protect ourselves. To punch someone in the face. So the moment we play the guitar like this, it's a natural thing.
So you're saying that we were born designed to punch people in the face?
That's actually what this lecture is about.
Have you had any other pain problems?
For some strange reason, I was practicing one study by Villa-Lobos, things that I practiced when I was a teenager, but now because I had my hands back, I said, oh, I'm going to play study number 7 by Villa-Lobos. And there is this place at the last page, I think, when you go half bar, with this part of the finger, you go up and down. Someone is calling me. How I can take this away? Okay. So there is this passage where you go half bar up and down. Dun, 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 dun. I mean, I don't remember the specific, but I remember by going up and down on the fingerboard, I injure apparently a very small tendon here, which every time I was playing a half bar, it was hurting me for a year and a half. A year and a half. I went to 3-4 doctors. Tendons take lots of time to heal. So that's, another thing I learned. Wow, sometimes we can even have accidents and injure ourselves with little stupid things like this. We're so fragile, and again came to my attention that, be aware of practicing the same passage again and again and again, because you're aggravating this specific part of the body. So, and that was the other very small injury, in comparison with the dystonia that I had, that it took me more than a year to stop feeling the pain. I played concerts and did recordings with the pain, but there is now 6 months that is gone.
How painful was it? Did it affect your playing?
It was annoying.
Just a niggle.
It was annoying. It was like it was there all the time, and I was, when I was jumping to the position, I always was thinking that will hurt. Not in a way that I could not play. Because, I went to doctors, and the doctors again said, oh, you have to stop playing for 8 weeks in order to recover. And then when we start talking, they realize this is not the right approach. Doctors sometimes they're just oblivious when they treat musicians. A doctor put my finger and said, you should immobilize it. I said, but when you immobilize a tendon, there's no blood going in. So the recovery, it will be slower. He looks at me, he says, you're actually right, we're doing the wrong thing. He actually admitted, he said, you're actually right. I don't think...
Admitted it.
Makes it what?
At least he admitted it.
He admitted because, they think big limbs. They think of they don't think about little details. And the little details are like the little tendons. The tendons, if you immobilize them, blood will not go there and they cannot heal fast. So the tendons, you have to work with the tendons, you have to massage them, you have to bring heat, you have to make the blood go there. And again, way of coming out and recovery, it was because I had also this education I had because of my focal dystonia. I learned about all this kind of stuff, and I was more aware about what I should do, because again, if I would go and follow the doctor's advice, it could be even worse. For me, I remember I had an injury on my wrist, and I had it for like 3 months, and that injury made me to create tension on my right hand, because when I was having my hand in a certain way, I was feeling the pain, so I moved my hand to play in a different way. The moment I play my hand to move in a different way, that caused tension. And the moment I did this, it helped me to play till I will, whatever, thought that that's my normal position, but I was doing it in an unconscious way. Because I had the pain, I changed my technique, but I did not pay attention. I remember 2 weeks before my Carnegie Hall concert and injury after that, I remember bragging to my students, I never had any hand problems in my life. I remember bragging at them. I remember telling them, you all come with injuries. I played guitar all my life. Never had any problems. It was so interesting because I remember I said, damn it, you cannot play an open string. And 2 weeks ago you were bragging that you never had a hand injury. So my first and most, let's say, devastated injury was that.